You know what I reckon we should start with?
Okay, yep.
Ahongi.
You serious?
It's even more awkward, eh?
Yeah, it is, bro. We do kaupapa, but like, I've always wanted to understand, and this is something I've kind of done for myself, is like, why do we do kaupapa?
I think that there's two things, or for me at least. And the first one is a sense of like obligation.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing is, bro, like I think for me, for us, for our generation, at least my perspective is that our parents, they were like trailblazers in the way that they went out and they studied te reo, relearnt te reo themselves and all that sort of
Driving
stuff.
kaupapa.
Yeah. And they looked up to their parents in a very different way. Like often their parents weren't necessarily these trailblazers, they were humble people, they were working at home and stuff. So our parents didn't quite have they weren't in the same situation as us, because we constantly feel like we're chasing our parents. We're chasing their example and all that sort of stuff. Our parents probably never felt that, because they were leading the way in that space. Like in my situation, my old man's the pinnacle of everything that I do. The best example of being a father, best example of being a Māori leader, best example of being a kaupapa man. And so it's constantly chasing that. And that also has pressure, and that also has difficulty and has weight. If anything, in my life, because we're talking about mental health and stuff, that's probably the area that mental health's affected me the most, is living up to expectation, living up to pressure, living up to all that taumahatanga from a very young age right through to now.
I guess just with a particular interest way with your whānau, Flavell whānau, like there's your dad, there's your mum, PhD, there's your sisters, own businesses, there's then your other sister, psychiatrist, you know, it's massive, bro. Do you think you've met that expectation?
As I've gotten older, I've stopped caring as much about that, to be honest. You know, so living up to your parents is one thing, and then living up to what your siblings are doing is another. Who was it that said to me? I can't remember. It was one of the MPs. Oh, I remember him sitting down and he goes, when you stop being remembered as Te Ruroa's son and people referring to dad as Whatanui's dad, that's when you know you've cracked it. And I was like, what a toxic thing to say. Because it's like, you know, that's what's determining whether you're successful or not. Even though right now, people still refer to me as media's brother and Te Ruroa's son. I've just stopped caring as much about it, bro. Yeah.
Do you think that's helped? Stop caring?
Yep. I think that's a massive part of getting over it, getting over the idea that you have to be a certain way or you have to hit a certain expectation.
Was there a process you had to go through to get there?
I don't think there's a particular like recipe to get there, and I won't say that I'm fully there. You know, because there's still times where, as toxic as this is, I see my sisters doing something amazing, and I see my brothers and I see my parents doing something amazing. I'm like, okay, what's my next thing? What am I doing next? And that takes a toll, bro. Like, and then you must understand that as well. Oh, and I think that so much of it is self-inflicted too. Like it's all upstairs, as opposed to it coming from anyone. Like I often think, you know, that my parents are wanting me to do something else, or they're wanting to push me, when they're actually really happy with where I'm at. Same with my siblings. Really healthy in a way that we're always pushing each other to do something, you know, see what the next thing is. At the same time, one of the biggest issues within our whānau is that we just don't celebrate each other enough, bro. Because quite often we're so caught up in what's next. What we're doing now is actually really amazing. And another thing, like within our whānau, is that it's all happened to us. Like we all feel pressure and we show it in very different ways. My sister needs a lot of affirmation from the whānau. Like needs a lot of love from my parents, and they won't mind me saying that. And then another one of my sisters, she was a New Zealand basketball player. And she couldn't have either of my parents there watching her play, because the pressure got to her so much, it'll throw her game out, you know? And then it's the same with me. It's like, I'm more than happy and more than capable of doing a lot of these things, but when people are talking to me and putting that pressure on, I'm like, whoa, this is so much. And it's all good until something goes wrong. And as soon as there's something that goes wrong, that's when everything sort of spirals out. You get to that vulnerable state of, shit, you start questioning, what am I doing? Why am I doing it?
How did you grow back from that, come back from the adversity?
Yeah, well, it's lucky, like within our whānau, is that we're really kind of transparent if something like that does happen. And the other side of it is that we're all very fortunate that we understand that everyone's sort of been through this and understands that those difficulties, so we can talk and everyone can relate to it. If I was to mention pressure within my whānau, the rest of my siblings go, yeah, I felt that. I felt it in a different way, but I feel the same thing. And I don't want to be dramatic and say, well, this is always, you know, weighing me down. But there was a point in my life, actually, for the majority of my life, I sort of thought, bring it on. I love this, you know. I want to try and live up to, I want to try and, you know, exceed whatever my old man and what my siblings are doing. I used to think that I loved that challenge. That's all good until you get to a point where you just can't handle it anymore. Yeah. And you're like, shit, how about I just sit down and take a moment to celebrate everything that I have done?
Do you think you have celebrated?
There's still times where I find it difficult, bro. Like, I work in TV, and the best celebration is seeing your name rock up as a credit on TV. And so you sit back and you go, man, that was a pretty amazing show. And living with that, spending time with whānau, getting out and exercising and all that sort of stuff. To be honest with you, bro, like going back to your kaupapa thing, is that it's not often that I do things for myself. And so just recently getting into exercise, running, CrossFit, that sort of stuff has really helped.
Do you feel like there's been times where you haven't and you've kind of got burnout because of it?
Oh, bro, all the time.
What was that like?
All the time. I mean, I think it's just like, I don't know, it's hard, because it's all just about trying to meet that expectation. Because I've seen my parents work, and I've seen how hard they work, and I still, to this day, don't think I work anywhere near as hard as they do. You start to feel burnout, and you're like, well, my parents probably still continue to work harder than I do. My dad's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he's still got more meetings than I do in a day. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, bro, but I think that having kids taught me to slow down. Having kids taught me to appreciate the time that I do have at home.
Being present.
So that's been a massive thing for me. Like, I still overwork, like all of us. We all commit to way too many things.
Right, it's good, I think, that you raised the stuff with the dad's diagnosis.
But I will start by saying that, like, I had the most amazing upbringing. Yeah. Like, the best upbringing anyone could ever choose. I have, my mum and my dad are both, like I said, the pinnacle of everything. Like, top woman, I look at my mum. Top man, I look at my dad. And then my siblings, we were never spoilt with materialistic things, but definitely spoilt with opportunity. But we've never, other than my kōrero, my grandfather passed when I was 7. Our whānau has been so fortunate that we haven't seen any death or cancer. Other than an auntie who got cancer 2 years ago, we haven't had anything like that. So it really rocked me, bro. Like, all of us, it really rocked us.
And I think for a lot of us as boys and as sons, we see our dads as Superman.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine, bro, what it was like to find out, like, oh, he's sick.
You just sort of think that they're immortal. And I think that that's something that Te Ao Māori does, is that we always throw kaupapa at our leaders, and we don't necessarily think about how they're going. We don't give them time to rest enough because we're so worried, we're so keen on them being that leader for us. But I remember the moment, I remember the call, I remember the whānau talking together when he announced it to us. And bro, that was probably one of the hardest times, hardest days, hardest moments, hardest 5 minutes of my life. And I remember we were together that night training for CrossFit. I just had 5 minutes. That's all I had, because I needed to bring myself together to go to training, because I was so stubborn that I didn't want to. We were already here, all of us. I've never trained so hard in my life after that, bro. Like, just went into the gym, and in retrospect, it was probably a good thing just to let out some steam. And then it was after that really took a toll, and lucky to have such a supportive partner. My boy, and my boy who doesn't understand any of it, who still sees his kōrero as a superhero. You know.
When you first got that phone call and first got that news, bro, what was your first thought?
One thing that I'm pretty good at, bro, is seeing the best possibility. It was a FaceTime call, and I kind of knew that it was coming because our whānau very rarely call for a FaceTime with all 5 kids. But at that stage, it was all still early days, and so you try and pick up the positives and know that, Dad, if there's any person that this sort of disease or whatever can hit, he's the perfect candidate. He's fit, he's so freaking stubborn, he's so strong that if anyone can beat it, it's him. You know, you have a cry, you have a tangi. You start thinking about his tangi. You start thinking about, am I ready to stand on the paipai? My whole upbringing has been around te ao Māori and all that sort of stuff, but never do you actually ask if you are ready to stand on the taumata, stand on the paipai for the rest of your life. Because once it starts, you're there. And so it was a bit of that, bro. Taking the time to really process that.
Understand it.
And then he's like, don't be sad. I'm not dead yet. You know, and he was one that really sort of started planning his own tangi and all of that sort of stuff. But he's like, don't, you know, I'm still here. But it's also a really healthy thing to start talking about that sort of shit with your whānau, with your internalizing it yourself. It's recalibrating everything. Recalibrating everything that you're doing, your purpose, your why, all of that sort of stuff. And then you start thinking, okay, where am I going to put my energy? Where am I going to start putting my energy? And then for me, I'm currently making a documentary about something that he was involved with. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to make this the most amazing thing that I can make. Because while he's still here, he's going to give the opportunity to see it and to honour him in my own little way, I suppose.
We really have to ask ourselves if we are ready, if we are ready to take them on and what that means.
Hard, bro.
Beyond just the role. Like,
yep.
Like, what are you really saying in terms of what Dad was doing and then now that I am doing?
My whole upbringing, te ao Māori, te reo Māori, been to panes, done all that sort of stuff. All of those things result in ultimately me being a strong Māori leader, standing up on the paipai and all that sort of stuff. It's sort of flashlighted me at 31 years of age going, this could be sooner than you expected. It's pretty daunting. It's a pretty daunting thing. As a whānau, I was pretty stoked, pretty proud of how our whānau dealt with it. Yeah. And him. It was when he started channeling his purpose, which again it feeds into that whole thing of our Māori leaders just constantly falling into mahimo, thinking of others, is that he started channeling those lessons into trying to educate others, and the benefit of that is that it distracts him and it gives him a purpose, and that filters down to the rest of us. I do want to say though, is that I remember, because we were training for Nats, but I don't think I've ever been asked, bro, are you okay?
True, bro.
Until you sat down with me. And it wasn't just a, bro, are you okay?
I remember, yeah.
It was a, bro, are you okay? And my answer was, yep, I'm all good. Yeah, but are you actually okay? And the whole idea of someone actually wanting to listen, not just asking you just because, but actually wanting to listen is something that was so new to me. And we sat down for, an hour and a half just chatting. Yep. Probably for the first 5 minutes was awkward. Because I just don't know, I'm so foreign to someone who's not whānau, someone asking me if I'm all good. I'm kind of like, for the first 5 minutes, I'm like, hey, what's this fella what goss is this fella trying to get from me? What's he trying to know? And then realise actually it comes from a place of love. And then being able to let the guard down and start talking about that sort of stuff. Because I was struggling, and you could see it. And that's one thing that I do love about you and the bros, the brothers, is that constantly reaching out and going, bro, this just happened, thinking of you. So yeah, mihi ana ki a koe, bro.
No, bro. Because it's easy to deflect the first one. Oh, no, I'm sweet. Are you sure? And you're like, no, I'm lying.
Well, because it's for me, it was like, is this fella seeing that I'm not okay? I know you well enough to go, okay, he's watching me and he's seeing, the way that I'm carrying myself, language that I'm using or whatever. Yeah. Or simply just checking in.
Yeah, bro.
But that idea of checking in with someone, I think just giving the heads up that I want to listen to you and I'm here to listen to you if you need me, and it's just not necessarily about going, I want to talk to you now and I want your answer right now, but know that I'm here.
Yeah, but that's where the real work is. That's where the real change happens if we can find the bravery to sit in that space, to go in those spaces with our bros, and also for the bros to be okay with being led into those sessions as well.
Which is tough, bro, because it's one thing to hear that your father, a week ago was diagnosed with cancer. It's another thing when you've got trauma that's 20 years deep-seated. And it's so deep that it's so difficult to even communicate that sort of stuff. So I have a lot of aroha and a lot of sympathy for a lot of our bros who feel that, man. Because like I said, I had the most amazing upbringing, and this shit just doesn't discriminate. Because even the person with the most amazing opportunity, the most amazing role models, a present father, it still smashes you, and it still attacks you harder, just as much. I just feel for a lot of the bros.
And you're right, bro. Like, this is deeper than just what happened in the last year. It can be 20 years, 30 years, 40 years for some men.
It was a bit of a funny, buzzy experience, but getting my pūhoro was one of the things, the catalyst to me understanding pain, fear, those what they call negative emotions.
Because you can't hide you can't hide from how you're feeling. You have to sit there. I'm yet to get mine, but like, you have to sit there or lay there for however many days and just experience this pain repetitively.
Well, there was, so there's a bit of a story to my pūhoro. Was the first day I invited my family to come and sit with me on the first day of my first session of my pūhoro. They came, and it was one of the most painful days of my life, bro. Like, just sitting there and you're worrying about feeding everyone, you're worrying about if everyone's okay, if they're enjoying the process and all that sort of stuff. And I remember getting to the end of that day, and I went home and had a shower, and during that session, the tattoo artist had tattooed koru, or my rape, just did the outline of one cheek. And I was in the shower and I was going, fuck. If that's how painful one cheek was, I'm going to have to learn how to understand pain, how to understand fear and all that sort of stuff pretty quickly if I'm wanting to walk around with a pūhoro eventually. Otherwise, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with one bum cheek tattooed with some scribbles on it. my bro will laugh at the fact of me calling it scribbles, bro.
It's like, if we avoid negative emotions and negative feelings and experiences, all it does is it makes that thing more, it makes that thing worse.
Yep.
If you're avoiding a difficult conversation with your partner, if you're avoiding raising an issue with one of your bros, if you're avoiding a difficult whatever, for anxiety's sake, for depression's sake, like, it just makes that thing more, it just makes that thing more intense.
Yeah. So after that first day, I went, oh man, I'm going to have to harden up and go to, just live with it and understand fear and pain. I rocked up to the second session, and he started drawing the second cheek. He finished drawing it up, and he goes, "Kapai, bro, go and bring yourself together. We're going to start in about 10 minutes." I went outside, bro. I just started bawling my eyes out, like hotu, bro. And it was at that moment, I think, was just sort of coming to grips with the idea that, okay, pain, fear, mamai, no, kei kōrā koe, kei te rongo i a koe, you're there, I see you, I hear you, bro, I'm on this journey with you, let's go, let's do it together. Because there's no point in me trying to fight. I fought that first day, and it was the hardest day, it was the most painful day. That second day, jumping back on the mat, I was so at ease with pain, I was so at ease with the pain that I was about to receive, and I was okay with it, I could sit with it. And then the journey was so much easier. And the funny thing was that I had a mate who was going through his same pe'a at the same time, and he never quite got there. Never quite got to the point where he could, because he was fighting it the whole time and just see the pain that he was going through. I actually had to sit there with him and say, bro, just give in to it.
Surrender.
Live with it, man. Like, just learn to work with it. Learn to work with it. And I think that there's a lot of lessons or a lot of kōrero within that, in that one little scenario that I've taken away, certainly. Like, I used to be scared as of jumping in the ocean. And some would argue that I'm still scared as of jumping in the ocean. But getting my pūhoro was a catalyst to me actually going, I'm actually, if I can go through that pain, if I can sit through 16 sessions of getting my pūhoro done, then the idea of the 1 in a million chances of me getting bitten by a shark actually aren't that bad. Because I put myself through a situation that was just self-inflicted pain, you know, what's wrong with going out and taking a chance and all that sort of stuff. So it just changes the way that you think.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, did you feel like you were stronger the week after? Like you could like, oh, I'm not scared of anything. I've just gone through 5 days of pain. Like nothing freaks me out.
Straight up, and that has a lot to do with confidence, self-confidence, and walking around knowing that you've been through that. And it's not going, I've got my pūhoro, I'm indestructible. It's more going, I understand what pain is. It's almost the opposite. It's humility. You grow humility because you know that you're not greater than any pain. You're not greater than anything, but you can withstand pain if it does come your way. And so that was massive. And I happened to do that alongside my wahine and her first term with my young boy. So we did it at the same time. And my last session was me on the ground on the mat with my son next to me, and that was like a full sort of capped that whole experience. And it was wicked, man. And it taught me so much about myself. Probably set me up well to become a father and know that or have some sort of wisdom to hand on to my boy around fear, around pain, around all those
uncomfortable things.
Uncomfortable things, bro. Yeah.
So, one thing because I kind of did some self work on this, like why am I so committed to kaupapa, but I think a lot of it, and for a lot of us as Tāne Māori, like our worth is our work.
Yeah.
So this is how it goes. So if your worth is your work, if you're not working, you're worthless. Yeah. Like my worth and work aren't correlated that way. They're not dependent on each other. I'm a worthy person who's not working right now. Yeah. I am a worthy person who is working right now.
I think a big part of that is that we're so focused on now and what we're doing now, as opposed to looking at how our worth and our work that is going to come in the years to come. But it's so easier said than done, eh, bro?
Yeah. I'm supposed to be like a health professional. I'm supposed to be a mental health practitioner.
You are, bro.
Yeah, and despite the years that I've done through study, it's still a challenge, or it's still something I have to constantly work on. Like it's same with fitness. You know, we do that. You don't just do fitness and get fit and that's it. Like it's a daily commitment. It's a regular commitment to mental health, to looking after yourselves, to looking after others.
Yeah,
that's what it takes, and it takes time.
I also think that that's a massive part for the importance of the mahi that you're doing, and also being one of those people who can protect that within your space, because we know that there's not many people who are doing the mahi that you're doing. And as my dad always said when he was in politics, he said it's better to change the house from within than to try and throw stones at it from the outside, and so you're the perfect person to be in there to do that. Not to put any pressure and any extra weight on you, because we've just been talking about kaupapa.
Trying to release pressure, release weight, but I guess it goes back to your kōrero obligation. I think this might be my obligation in a sense as well, and I'm okay with that as long as I can manage it.
And it's about having the right, and I believe you do, is having the right people around you who can help you in that space. It's not necessarily going, I'm going to take it all on myself.
Yeah, it's going. It's easy to do.
It's so easy to do, bro. Yeah. It's not going, I'm going to take it all on myself. I'm going to write new karakia to help everyone, but it's going, I know someone who can really help me with this. I know someone who's amazing at coming up with karakia and being more of a facilitator in that space, but not necessarily taking it all on ourselves.
Yeah. Do you find yourself ever trying to take on too much by yourself?
All the time. I'm also a pretty good delegator though.
Okay, yeah. That's good,
I'm pretty good at getting people, because there's often times where I just don't know the answer to something. And so reaching out to your networks, reaching out to your cousin, reaching out to your parents, reaching out to whoever who do know more about that issue. So if it was something about mental health, I don't know, other than my personal experience, I don't know anything about it. So I'd reach out to someone like you, come and, bro, what do you reckon? And it's working a little bit more like that, as opposed to going, I'm going to fix this whole situation by doing everything and coming up with something myself, which I am terrible at. I always doing that. But it's something for us all to learn, I think.
2 boys, baby on the way. I've said this earlier at another kaupapa. The way that we as men express ourselves is usually an example set by our dads. What's the example you want to set for your kids?
Yeah, I mean, because I've got a dad who's a little bit like that.
Okay.
Who's not necessarily as open. He's really emotional. Like if he's feeling mamai, no issue showing it. Talking about it is a little bit different. One of the things that I felt over this cancer journey that he's had, on Father's Day I called him, and it was the first time in my life, because he'd just come out of chemo, it was the first time that I'd heard him say that I'm not okay, boy. I'm in pain, and that was on Father's Day, and it bloody broke me. But at the same time, I'm like, yes, we're actually talking about that now, and I'm lucky that I recognise that about that, and I try and counter that with my boys. If I'm feeling a little bit koretake, or even simply just asking them, how was your day? Why? I tino pai, why? And then getting them to talk about why their day was good, how it made them feel, and all that sort of stuff is something that I ask my boy on the way home every day. And so I think the goal is that he can articulate his emotions, one, by hearing me articulate mine. Because it's only through that, like you said, the idea is that he will know how to articulate his emotions because he's had someone show him how to articulate his emotions. I haven't necessarily received that in my upbringing. I've realised that that's a gap. So it's trying to adapt that, trying to change that for my boy and my mokos going forward. And hopefully that's where we're gonna head. That's the goal, is that we go into a point where we can talk freely about how we're feeling.
And then as he grows, he can still continue to do that thing because of the relationship that you've built with him.
Yeah. And he's like that. He's naturally like that as a kid, which I'm proud of. Like, I'm stoked that my younger boy is like that.
So yeah, like, and however bros want to express themselves, if it is openly crying or not, as long as you're doing it the way that you need to, that's the thing we need, eh?
And there's a lot of, like, bro, I'm not perfect in that space either. Like, I probably inherited a hell of a lot more from my mum. She's the opposite to so my dad's quite soft. He openly cries and stuff, not necessarily as open about speaking about her emotions. My mum, she's staunch, man. She's just so staunch in her ways. What she thinks is what she thinks, and she will speak out of her emotions, or out of her how she feels. So if she's feeling like something's not right, she'll say it directly, whether or not you approve of that or you like the way that she says it. She will say it, which causes a whole lot of Christmas awkwardness, bro, for us as a whānau. But I think I've inherited a lot of that, and so for me, because I've gotten to the point where I'm starting to manage people at mahi and all of that sort of stuff, it's really about being aware of that and being able to adjust that going forward, and the way that you talk to people and the way that you are with people, because some people are way more sensitive than others, and some people receive being staunch well, others prefer to be a little bit more sensitive, others prefer to be a little bit nicer and giving softer ways of messaging. But like, it just shows how different, and like you were just saying, but like even within my own little whānau, we've got so many different dynamics, and everyone deals with it in different ways. Some people completely remove themselves from the situation. Some people, like myself, just like to attack the situation head on. Just go, here's a problem, let's fix it, let's talk about it, let's do something about it now. Whereas others just prefer to sit with it, take it all and digest that emotion and come back to it when they're ready. And that goes to show that we're all different. We all deal with it in different ways, and it's not to say that one way is better than the other, as long as we are getting to the point where we are able to actually deal with it. Sit with it, acknowledge it, and
resolve it, eh? Che. Ling.
Che.
Hongi to close. Kihi to close.
Thank you, bro.
Safe, bro.
All right, cut there.